This is the Transforming Anxiety Podcast with Kelly Hanlon McCormick, and today is episode number 214, Your Daily Routine Weekend Edition. Welcome to Transforming Anxiety. I'm your host, Kelly McCormick. I'm a mom to 2 boys, a wife, friend, daughter, and sister, and I'm a certified life coach, yoga teacher, and soon-to-be mindfulness meditation teacher. I'm no stranger to anxiety, and I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you too can transform anxiety into calm, peace, and whatever you want for your life. I'm so glad you're here. Well, hello. Welcome back. So good to be hanging out with you today. All right, so listen, a few weeks ago, I did a podcast episode about your daily routine, and that seemed to be a well-liked episode. People responded really well to that one, and I heard you. It seemed helpful. And then I got a great request from one of my favorite students. This is such a brilliant idea. She was like, Kelly, that's all well and good, but I'm fine during the week. What I need is a way to think about my routine and my time and just what I want and need to get done on the weekend. Such a great question. I love this. So I got to thinking about it, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to explore routine, but the weekend edition. And listen, there's a bit of an oxymoron or contradiction here because how we're going to talk about this and what we're going to allow to be true here in this conversation is that weekends are usually anything but routine. Like by definition, they get a little looser than the weekdays. Well, for most of us, right? And what's cool about that and this discussion is that I think this is even more widely applicable. Like it's for weekends, but it's also for summer break and vacations and like those wonky 2 weeks around the holidays at the end of the year. And I'm thinking this could be globally applicable to bigger phases like empty nests and retirement. So we're going to talk about weekends here, but I want you to consider how this could show up in your life in the near and the far term, and how elements of this are going to be at play maybe during various seasons of our lives, like forever. So I also, before we jump into this, I also want to acknowledge something here, and that is that I'm going to be using a gross overgeneralization in this episode that speaks to a work week assumption of Monday through Friday, kids in school, day shifts, that whole thing. And I want to just say that I know this is an overgeneralization. There is seriously nothing inherently, quote unquote, normal or typical about this other than the random fact that our society has deemed it so. So again, please use the lessons in here and make them yours. Adapt this to your schedule, okay? The arc of your weeks and your months, how life looks and flows for you. There's nothing right or wrong about any of that. Like I said, it's actually kind of random. Some people, probably some white men, made some stuff up however many years ago. And here we go, right? Thinking that a normal work week means you go, or a normal week means you go to work and kids go to school Monday through Friday during the day, and that the weekends are yours. There's obviously some privilege baked into that. And for some of you, it may actually feel like there's a bit of a prison sentence baked into that, honestly. You may feel stuck work-wise or schedule-wise. And I just want to honor and acknowledge all of that before we get started. Please make this yours. Please don't use those silly little societal tendencies to think that this isn't yours or that it doesn't apply. All right, so let's explore some specific things to consider when you're evaluating your routine, but on the weekend, which, like I said, is a bit of a contradiction because by definition, oftentimes these days don't have the structure and habitual flow to them that the weekdays have. But some of you enjoy the fluidity of weekends, right? And that built-in spontaneity and lack of organization. And some of you really don't. And you can wind up feeling completely untethered, kind of wandering from room to room or task to task, just not exactly sure what you want or need to do with yourself. So let's talk first about the reality of state changes. So I mean shifting gears from the order and regularity of the work week to the relative freedom of the weekend. This can be a little disorienting. Again, same thing when you go on vacation or those couple of weeks over the holidays. It's almost like by the time you settle in, it's time to get back to work and routine again, right? So I want to first acknowledge the reality of state changes and remind you it's tricky. And simply knowing it's coming and that it can feel tricky internally can actually go a ways in helping you to navigate the transition from, say, a Friday morning meeting to Friday evening relaxation. When you expect and you anticipate that shift, you're more prepared to ride it. You're not surprised by it. And this is big. This is big. We're oftentimes surprised by how we're feeling or what we're experiencing. And that surprise takes a certain amount of attention and energy and brain power, right? We have to traverse the change, even a welcome change, like going into a weekend. And that change then can wind up feeling depleting and tiring. So to start with, recognize that it's a shift. This is Newton's first law of motion, right? An object in motion stays in motion. And changing from the motion of the week towards the relative stillness of the weekend is worth noting. And okay, I just said something. I know some of you are thinking, my weekends are anything but quiet or still or relaxing. I'm running kids every direction. I'm trying to get everything done that I couldn't get to during the week. I'm cramming in cleaning and Costco runs and all the things. I know. Sure, we're going to talk about that in a second. But I want to invite you to recognize for the moment that you mostly have more control and authority over your weekend flow than you do during the week. Just like you do on vacations and summer break and those years after the kids leave the house. For the most part, most of us have more of a say-so in how things are going to go than the usual workday, weekday grind. So notice the state change, that it's a shift from the energy and the routine of the week to settle into the weekend. And maybe even do something to clearly mark that for yourself, some kind of ritual maybe. Like on Friday afternoons, I usually take a longer than usual walk when I'm done working, just as a signal that we're going into the weekend. Friday nights are sometimes good nights to get takeout for dinner, right? That's another signal that things are not quote unquote normal around here. We typically get together with friends or we watch a movie as a family. It's just something that's different than we do on a Tuesday, right? There's nothing huge. It's not usually a big deal, nothing fancy. Just these little signs that we're shifting into weekend mode. So start by honoring the state change and allowing yourself, your mind and heart and nervous system to shift along with you. Make some space for that. Be aware of it, all right? Okay, so I just hinted at downtime, relaxation, and rest over the weekend. And again, I know some of you are like, what's that? Right? Never heard of it. And sure, that's one way to live. I also know that there are a lot of you, and I can fall into this camp too, that don't naturally tend towards relaxation and rest, right? Your tendency is to go and do and be productive. So the unstructured downtime on the weekends can really leave you feeling lazy and confused. Or on the opposite side, it can kind of make you manic, like where you're determined to just cram in a whole bunch of house projects and errands and social events, right? I know. I've done that dance. I still do that dance sometimes, plenty. What I've found is that we have to truly value downtime and rest in order to prioritize it. We have to see what we get out of it. Like rest for the sake of rest isn't appealing to some of us, right? because we view rest as something that takes us away from the going and doing and producing, which is where we think we need to live. We have our self-worth so tied up in what we can accomplish and achieve and get done in a day that we completely dismiss rest because we view it as the opposite of that. And what's the good in that then, right? It helps me to remember that rest is part of the natural cycle of things. Like in a day, there's sunrise, daylight, sunset, and darkness, right? There are seasons that we cycle through, the phases of the moon. Women have monthly cycles. There are seasons of life where we're in school, we're adults, maybe we become parents, maybe we're partners, and then things shift and change and fall away and come together and change again, right? Our days and weeks and months are like this too. There are cycles. I know you know this, but let's say it anyway, all right? You can't always be on. It can't always be daylight or summer. Just like you can't always be off. You can't always feel one emotion or always be energized or tired or excited or hungry or bloated or frustrated or anxious or thirsty or cold or anything. We are always cycling through. And part of what makes life easier is working with that knowledge, working with that reality, instead of fighting it and arguing against it. You can try. We all have. And I know you've noticed it doesn't work. So every evening when I'm done working and cooking and cleaning and running kids, right? It's quitting time. It's time to rest. At bedtime, we get to hit the hard reset button. In the morning, we're rested, re-energized, ready to go. We go and we do and we produce and we create all day, and then it's quitting time again, right? Bedtime, sleep, and again. So the weekends provide a different quality of that, right? It's the same, but it actually can be like more. Like a house project can get more time and energy. Or maybe there's a longer hike or a more in-depth yoga practice because you don't have to hurry to get to work. There's also a sense that you can relax on the patio a little longer, right? Linger over a meal or with friends and family a bit more. That you could play a game and watch a movie and enjoy a deeper sense of presence without the clock rushing you to the next and the next and the next. You can do and go more, and you can also rest and relax more. But you have to truly value downtime. You have to see it as a necessary part of the cycle, as important as the other parts, the going and the doing and the achieving and accomplishing parts. They are equally important. That's not up for debate, by the way. It's not an opinion that I hold. This is just a fact. They are all equally important parts of the cycle. You have to see that and be aware of that fact and then live accordingly, which for a lot of us who are wired towards anxiety means we have to consciously and intentionally remember that they're equally important parts of the cycle. We can't label the going part as the good part and the rest part as the bad part. We can't talk about relaxation and downtime as if we're lazy sloths who are up to no good. We have to cherish and honor each step in the cycle. So it may be worth considering, do you do that? How do you do that? Why or why not do you do that? All right, I'm already getting the sense that we could talk about this for a while. I'm going to be really curious to hear what questions you have about this and how this lands for you and what else is coming up for you around weekends and vacations and holidays and just unstructured time in general. For now, I want to remind you of this simple fact too. You ready? There's always something. All right, let me be more specific with that one. I heard a friend say the other day as we were looking at some summer activities for our kids, she said, well, it's almost May though, and you know how crazy May can get. And then literally 2 sentences later, when we were talking about something in August, a concert that we wanted to go to, she was like, oh man, I don't know. August, it's always so busy in August. And I just started laughing. She was like, what? I said, every single month is like that. Every month, every season, every weekend, everything. There's always something. Because if it's not end of the year stuff with the kids, then you're going to need to go to the DMV and the dentist and have someone come over to fix the garage door, right? If it's not the holidays, it's someone's birthday or Mother's Day or Father's Day or the 4th of July or Halloween or Easter or Valentine's Day or an anniversary, or there's a work party, or someone gets married or dies or has a baby or moves or gets a new job or a basement floods or a kid turns 16 and starts driving or something. It's literally always something. Here's why I say this. Please, please, please put slush time into your week. There will definitely be something. And if you have slush time allotted for the something of the week, you'll be able to make it all work. You can handle it easier anyway, right? You can manage things without losing your mind if you have some slush time. But if you forget that there's always something and you fall into the trap of thinking that only May is crazy because that's what's right in front of you right now, you're hosed because there's always something. So, slush time is necessary during the week, during the weekend, during vacation and holidays and summer and evenings, and you name it. There's always something. Don't be surprised by that. I sometimes chuckle, actually, when something happens with the car or someone calls with a favor because it's like, oh, here's the something, right? Here it is. But here's what else. Managing your weeks, your weekends, your daily routine, during the routine and the not so routine parts of your life. Here's the thing. It requires setting and keeping boundaries. And mainly that's with yourself, honestly. I'm not even joking about that. Because you have to know what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, what you're willing to feel and not feel, okay? What your non-negotiables are, what your priorities are, and then act accordingly. Like if you leave yourself open to whatever request or favor or phone call or email or text message or problem or complaint or issue that arises in the people in your orbit, you're going to be doing a lot of stuff. And you're going to be doing a lot of other people's stuff. I'm telling you, that's how that can go. So keep your slush time. Like, don't be surprised that there's always something, because there is always something. And keep your priorities and your non-negotiables top of mind so that when you inevitably get the call or the email or the text, you can put it through the check-in of, does this work for me? Can I do this? Do I want to do this? And then you can act accordingly. I also see a lot of people's weekends and vacations, and particularly holidays, get swept up in other people's expectations and requests and ideas. And I just want to tell you, that's not possible without your consent. Most of this stuff isn't happening to you. You're signing up for it, however subconsciously. So just keep being aware. Keep practicing awareness of where you're bleeding time and energy and attention. This is key. Okay, so lastly, this is really all you need for this episode. I truly believe the antidote to all of this, to routine and downtime and structure and unstructured time and really living the life you want to live, is presence. Honestly, it's knowing what you want for yourself in your life, what you want to experience, what you want to hear and smell and taste and touch and see, how you want to feel, how you want to live and be, from there, to be honest with you, some of this becomes pretty clear. It's simple. It's not always easy. I will grant you that. In fact, I'll go out on a limb and say most of it's not easy, honestly. But it is clear and it is simple. The more present you become, the more you know yourself, the more you honor and take care of yourself. So start with that. Like particularly if the non-routine parts of your life are feeling really icky or weird or confusing or overwhelming, those are red flags that you are a going and doing machine and that you might be living according to shoulds and pressures and expectations instead of desires and dreams and wants. Like just try it on, see what you think. And like I said, the further I got into this topic, the more I thought we could just keep talking about this topic. So although I'm going to close for today, I'm really curious to hear from you. I want to know how this one lands and how this feels for you and what questions you have specifically about your weekends or holidays or vacations, those wonky 2 weeks at the end of the year. I want to hear from you. I'm curious. I will be back next week for more Transforming Anxiety. And until then, please take care. Do you have someone to help you with your stress, anxiety, worry, and overwhelm? If not, I would love to be your coach. The Fierce Calm Project is my virtual coaching program where we get to go in on topics like this one, and I can help you apply these lessons to your life so that you're creating your own transformation. We do live coaching calls, guided meditations, on-demand yoga classes. We hold book club where we read books your neighborhood book club won't, and there's lots of bonus content that I've created just for you. When you're ready to take what you're learning on the podcast to a whole other level, then come on over and check out the Fierce Calm Project at kellyhanlonmccormick.com/Fierce Calm Project.